correcting itself at the moment, whether for vertical farming, whether plant-based, animal-based meat, So I'll get back to Mr. Turab or anyone, if anyone else have any question about with Eugene, Mr. Eugene, or we can go back to Mr. Turab and he can like uh, how he started about it and how can like we can integrate these systems into Global South. Um, so Turab, I guess he's busy. Let me get him back.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you, Turab.
I'm having some somehow can't seem to get my screen up,
Turab,
but yeah. So I actually wanted Dr. Tanveer to actually engage a little bit with Mr. Eugene with regards to, and if Dr. Tanveer can share a little bit more about what the ORIC does and what does the University of Sindh do with regards to that. Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I think Dr. Tanveer are with us. Let me check.
Okay, then in the meantime, I think there's just some technical issues with regards to their mute buttons.
What is the problem?
I don't know. There seems to be a
Unmute button is not here. Okay, we can unmute them. Like you are a co-host, so you can unmute them.
hi.
Okay, I'm working on it. 1 second.
You have basically inadvertently blocked everybody.
No, it is nothing like that. Let me try. Like, no. Why? I think, Sophie, you spoke before. So can you try to unmute yourself and see if you can speak?
Oh, you mean you want me to speak?
No. You
Oh,
can
okay.
unmute yourself. So yes, we can unmute ourselves and speak. So I don't understand. What is the problem?
Is everything fine now? Dr. Tanveer, can you hear us?
Oh, Tanveer. Okay. Tanvir, can you unmute yourself? I can see Tanvir here, and he has a possibility of unmuting himself. Yeah.
Yes, Bilal, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, and
So
Mr. Bilal
probably
Farouk?
it is something on their part.
No, I am Bilal Ahmed from IT for
Uh,
IT support.
Thank you, Bilal Ahmed. Dr. Tanvir, can you hear us, Dr. Tanvir? Can you unmute yourself?
नहीं वो कह रही है she's saying here she's having an issue with unmuting herself. It's from the host. I just called her. Check.
Okay.
But we don't have any issue. See, you can speak, I can speak. So probably it.
Dr. Renuka, Dr. Renuka is right. Anyway, what I will do
Tanvir
is,
can maybe Tanvir can log out and log in again, and that might help.
I think that's a good idea.
And Bilal IT, can you make me co-host, please?
I've asked Dr. Tanvir. She will exit and join back. Let's see if that helps.
Dr. Renuka, you are already co-host.
No, but I left the meeting and I've come again. So you will have to make me again.
Yeah, you have assigned the rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will just try to unmute someone. Yeah, so we can ask to unmute and say, for example,
Eugene, you're with us?
Yes, I'm still here. Yes.
All right, thank you. So sorry about this. It's just a small technical
worries.
issue.
I can
the
tell.
Tanvir is trying to join, so probably it might work now.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think everyone, this is why I want Dr. Tanvir to have some thoughts, because I think everyone is fascinated, by the ideas that you've shared. I think Mr. Bilal's questions to you also points out his fascination as well. And I believe that it's possible that we need to create such knowledge for across Pakistan, right? To let them know. Naturally, there's a gap, right? Eugene, you mentioned earlier that the Singapore government called you up and, gave you $1 million check, and it all starts from obviously governments and organizations having that sort of consciousness, right?
Exactly.
But things are different perhaps in Pakistan. Singapore is a smaller country. It's land scarce, right? So Singapore has always been ahead in terms of scientific innovation, simply because, in my opinion, as a Singaporean myself, born in Singapore, it's about resilience, right? When you are in a country that doesn't even have its own water, right? You then have to really think. You see, when you are put in a difficult situation, sometimes you have to create better innovation. So, the systems thinking in Singapore is based out of adversity, right? Based out of scarcity. And how welcome, Dr. Tanvir. So good for you. And so sorry about the technical issues. I hope it's been resolved.
I know it will always happen in Pakistan. No issue.
It's okay. Yeah, we all understand that, and I was just sharing with Eugene that, I think the idea here and the ability to have this knowledge shared across with universities in Pakistan, with students, to give them the opportunity to think about the future of food. And I said to him, I was mentioning to him that, it's actually about a consciousness shift and, how you start something, right? Like, for example, Pakistan started with a lot of natural resources, a lot of fertile land, a lot of farming land, right? So the systems thinking, perhaps, was more about maximizing that. Singapore didn't have all of this.
Turab, I think we lost him. Turab, you froze.
I think he has some technical difficulty. He will come back.
Yeah. Mr. Eugene, he had a lot of the talked a lot about the protein, plant-based protein. Yeah.
Yes, yes, he does. Yeah, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Yes, we can
yes.
hear you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Bilal, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, we can hear you, Dr. Tanveer.
Hello.
Yes, good, good. Okay, we're all
Yeah.
back. That's great. Fascinating. So actually, before we lose you again, actually, Dr. Tanveer, I wanted you, I'm sure you've listened to what Eugene says and his ideas and the things that he's doing. So I wanted to basically give you the opportunity and we need to hear from you in terms of what is it that you do at ORIC? What is the objectives of ORIC? And you know, what is the future according to the work that you do now? And I'm sure you have some questions for Eugene as well. Or is ORIC already working on the ideas that Eugene has? Or do you see the potential here, for example, to basically get sort of ideas that can work together where you see the thing what Eugene was mentioning earlier about the Singapore government giving a check. Naturally, those conditions don't really are not the same in Pakistan. But at the end of the day, you know, as the world is being developed in the world is going to move ahead whether Pakistan catches up or not. So currently Pakistan already has a gap with the world, and currently because of the pandemic, all of the world's science came together, all of the world's engineers came together, and suddenly in the last 2.5 years, Eugene may also comment on this, there's been an explosion of tech, explosion of knowledge, and you know everybody is pushing towards sustainability because there's an understanding here. But Pakistan, because we are already behind in our knowledge and in the knowledge gap, we risk being even further behind. So the goal of the summit really is to try to reduce this knowledge gap and to see how we can connect and work with each other. So Dr. Tanveer, if you're still here,
Okay, yeah.
did we lose her? Yes.
Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry for the internet interruptions because nowadays we are having elections, so that's why internet is very slow, and we have been facing this issue. Yeah, I heard about the Eugene talk, and he talked a lot and deeply about the protein-based food and how we can get the protein, especially.
I think she freeze.
Yeah, no, it was good of her. I mean,
When
Dr. Tanveer, can you turn off the video? I think it'll go more well, faster, if you could turn off the video.
why don't you?
I would like to talk about. Is it clear?
Yes, we can hear you. So yeah, Eugene, there's elections going on, and I think
Wow.
so
For you guys. Yep. Yep.
yes,
He is
yes,
back.
I think Dr. Tanveer gave a good idea that at the end of the day, you know, in fact, even yesterday we lost the opportunity to hear from a very intelligent and very creative permaculture farmer up in the Indus Valley, right? And he was about to share his presentation, but you know, he kept dropping out. And in some extent,
Yeah,
you know,
we
this yes, yeah, you're back. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Tanveer, share your ideas. And maybe you want to stop the video so that the voice is better because perhaps the buffering is a lot.
Actually, there is an internet problem. I was just thinking that we must aid the farmers or progressive growers also in our talks, so we can have a good view about the agriculture. Basically, when we are talking about the protein, I think it's a very burning, one of the most burning issue nowadays in every family, everyone is facing a deficiency of protein within them. Not in even in our body. I think we have been facing this issue in our soil too, because soil health is directly related with our health. And when our soils are healthy, they will produce the healthy product crops, and even the healthy feed for the animals, because animal source is the one of the most first source of protein, and then second source of protein is the plants. As the Eugene, he talked very deeply about the protein based plants and how they are extracting protein from different plants. Even if the combination of plants and animals, it can also give a good source of the protein. And one of my observation for the rural people is that they are not aware about these things. They only cook the potatoes, chilies, and eat with the chapati roti like this. They don't know which type of the food they should intake. And whenever we are intaking our food, we think that it depicts that how much we are active, how much we are efficient in our work. Because every time, even I would like to talk about my family. Even if I say my children, please do this, oh mama, we are tired, we don't want to do that, we just want to sit and listen. So this is the main issue and problem in human beings, that and when I am teaching with this student, even they don't have the capacity to participate more actively. They tired, very soon they tired, and fatigueness they appeared, so they don't work efficiently. So this is the lack of the protein. That's why they are not more efficient, they are not more active. And how we can reduce this protein deficiency, because many children, they don't want to eat fish, they don't want to eat meat. Because nowadays you can see that when animal feed, when we are talking about the animal feed, it's a mix up of pesticides and the other things, means not very natural. So when animals, they are going to eat those crops, they change the hormonal issues within the animals. And when we are going to eat such type of the meat for getting protein, the changes in our body also comes with their meat. So mostly it's a main issue that we must first think about the soil health. When our soil is healthy, the crop will be healthy, and we don't have to spray more pesticide, more fertilizers, because they are, when we are going to spray the fertilizers and pesticides, they leave the residual effect of the detrimental pollutants, which are not readily absorbed. So those pollutants are intaken by the animals and by the human beings, and again they are creating the adverse effects in our body and making us very unhealthy and inactive. So protein, concept of the protein is, first of all, we have to make awareness. Even when you talked about, when you were talking to me, I was performing Umrah in Saudi Arabia, and I had 1 or 2 days. Even I haven't conducted any class of my students. I just conducted one class of my student, and I elaborated them, discussed them about this concept, and I asked them to please join and make presentation. They showed the keen interest, but there was a very shortage of the time. So maybe that's why few of these students have joined, and others have just, they thought that they will have a few days more. But I said, no, you have to appear on 26. So this
the
is
good news is this. The good news is this, Dr. Tanveer. I just wanted to let you know, firstly, everything that you said, in many ways, a lot of people wonder about, how we did what we did. Sometimes we need, how do you say, just to get started, right? Until people don't see that there's a vessel available for you to actually jump on board. Everybody waits to see, right? When can we start, or they wait. So that is why we took the lead. And we are very familiar that a lot of universities, are quite surprised by our strategy and how we are working on it. But it's paying a lot of dividends, because the opportunity here is that when we come to the same place and then we actually find out things, then our minds really start to have that cognitive connection. Like you said, in Umrah, you were at Umrah, and just being part of this sometimes puts you in that position whereby you have to think further. And I have to say, Dr. Tanveer, what you just said in the last 10 minutes is exactly the ethos of MetaGood. And I believe it is also the ethos of Eugene. And that's why we are all doing what we do. I'm pursuing alternative proteins via insect proteins and developing black soldier fly farms. But the impact of that is creating biofertilizers. Now, the biofertilizer impact here is the greater impact, because then we can actually have a commodity that can help us restore the soil back, right? And so essentially, it is about creating a new good system, because you are right. A lot of the food that we eat actually affects the health that we have. In fact, I will wait, and after this later bit, I will show a video from Thai Health that they made about food and how pesticides and inputs, agricultural inputs, synthetic agricultural inputs are actually doing more harm than good. So at this point in time, what I'd like to do is I'm just going to show a video from the FAO about the future of food, and then Dr. Tanveer, I'll invite the people from your university. I believe there's some people here who would like to share some ideas.
Yeah, there are few peoples.
Mr. Zishan is here.
Yeah, Zishan. And
Great. So
yeah.
the good opportunity here is that we are working, and Eugene has basically been very kind, and
Excuse me, Turab, just one announcement that
Yeah,
while
thank
we
you.
are doing the whole summit, like along the whole summit, I have opened 10 rooms, breakout rooms, and one is like my office, in a sense of if you want to talk to me personally, we can go to that room and speak. Second is Turab's office, and other is technical workshop. So if you want to talk on technical things, please feel free to talk to each other. Tell them that, okay, come to the technical room and you can speak. We also have a space, social room, if you want to just introduce each other. And then we have plenty of other meeting rooms where you can also go and meet each other. So that is how we would like to facilitate the networking as well, if you want to dwell into specific issues and so on. So that is all I wanted to announce. Please carry on, Turab. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Renuka. I think it's a great idea. In fact, it's something that will be picking up over the next few days as well. So I was saying, Dr. Tanveer, that Eugene has been kind enough to basically become a co-world mentor, right? So we are collecting and working with different people around the world who are experts in their field, right?
Yeah.
And we're trying to bring them here to dedicate some time specifically for your university, because we want to be able to expose your faculty, your students, just like how you gave a speech the other day. It's about opening up their minds. So
yeah,
it
opening
could
up
be,
the mind, giving them awareness
so
about
it could
the
be
protein.
anything from blogs to podcasts to even planning, some online educational, informational sessions with you. So I just wanted to let you know. Yes, exactly. So I'm just going to just give a little bit of an idea here. It's
I
that
also wanted to add one point. Sorry, I'm
No
just
problem.
stopping you
No
from
problem.
showing.
No problem.
Thank you, Dr. Tanveer. Thank you very much. I just missed Yugen's presentation, but I will catch up online, which is recorded. Yes, you are very true that children, right from the childhood, they become lazy, fatigue, and so on. And so proper diet and induction is very important. But also I wanted to just focus on, the cultural issues that in a few of the families, or maybe in some of the families, oh, you can never eat fish, or maybe you can eat fish only with something, or you may not be there are so many mythical perceptions, like we have to misinformation and mythical this information around the world, not only in our culture but everywhere.
Everywhere.
And yes, and that also plays a very big role. So I think along with the protein, we have to go beyond that, explaining what other issues are also there, or addressing other issues and making the. So here I think public awareness is very, very important. So that is
Very,
the
very
point I
important.
wanted to make. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to play the video, after which we will just break away to your team and their speeches. And as we close today, later on, I will be introducing, this will be about a 50 minutes recorded session that was done with BioBee makers and some eminent scientists, and they will talk about basically soil health in climate action. And this is full of information that I believe Pakistan should pay attention to, because key people in this conversation talks about changes that happen in COP28 and how Pakistan or all nations who are working, basically who are signatories of this COP28 declaration, right, can actually start now engaging on a more aggressive and a more quicker level to basically get their systems and processes in line. So let me just share this FAO video. Stand by, please.
Sorry, Mr. Turab, I think we can't hear the sound. If anybody can confirm as well.
Sorry?
We can't hear the sound. If it does have the sound, just wanted to let you know.
I see. Thank you.
Dhruv, when you try to share, on the left bottom, there
Yeah.
will be a very small.
Can you see now? Yeah, no, I got it. I got it. Sorry, my mistake. I'll start again. Better? Yes?
Yeah, we can hear it now. Thank you.
So I think the message from the FAO is in harmony with the conversation that we are having, right? And it is clear that the world itself is calling for this direction, right? So Pakistan is part of the world. Pakistan is part of Asia, and sometimes the best catalyst for actions comes from people of knowledge and comes from learning academies and from students and from universities who push the envelope and who try to do something new and try to do something that can position their own country. So the point of our summit really is to help bring this knowledge and collaboration so that countries in the global south can work together as the planet is working together now. So we need to bridge this divide. So I welcome now participants from University of Sindh, ORIC, like to share and hear their thoughts and their work and their things that they're doing that are of interest and that we can look at and learn from and develop and work with you.
Yeah, Turab, I would like to add something that
Okay.
when we were children, we had a house. Everyone has a big house, you know, and in villages there is also a big house. So what we do there, we do all the sustainable gardening there by our hand. So we had fresh fruits, vegetables in hand, and even the children. As a child, I was also involved in raising the vegetables and fruits too. I was taking care of the fruits. So having fresh fruits, having fresh milk without any kind of the fertilizer, pesticide application. So we were so healthy and very
Amazing.
active. Yeah, nowadays this practice has vanished. Nowadays, you can see the houses how they have been built. There is no
Yes.
green space for sustainability. There is no space for producing kitchen gardening like that, fruits, vegetables. Even the children, they are every time they have the mobiles and screens on their hand. They are not physically involved in any kind of the creativity like crops, especially. Because during our childhood we were working with our mother. She used to grow the sow the seeds, and we follow her. And even through cutting of the vegetables and milking, we have 2-3 cow buffaloes at our home. So it was a sustainable type of the life, but nowadays it's vanished.
You know, Dr. Tanveer, I think what you say is absolutely spot on. We everything is about culture, right?
Yeah.
And as time progresses, right, the culture tends to erode away. And as we choose to live closer towards the cities and live in more packed environments, what you say is absolutely right. There is no doubt that if we look at science and if we follow the science, we would be able to identify that, you know, the Green Revolution also brought along a lot of significant health challenges, right?
Yeah.
It is very easy for us to now identify that certain agricultural inputs are known globally to cause issues and concerns. But at the same time, we seem to be in that gray area, as in, if we stop this process, will we be able to sustain our food supplies? But then at some point in time, we have to ask ourselves, is it sensible for us to continue this level of micro poisoning, which is essentially affects our immune system? It essentially affects our gut health. And quite frankly, there have been lots of scientific indications that what we eat and what we induce as residue from ag inputs, right, are diminishing our health, right?
Right.
There is unfortunately a strong correlation of cancer that is also increased.
Yeah, it's increasing.
During
Every third woman is suffering from the breast cancer.
Absolutely, right? And you know, I must say this, right? For example, when I came to Pakistan, there seemed to be a big market for hair loss. Men were
Yeah.
having great issues with hair loss, right? And I'm from Singapore. We didn't have such issues, and I've been to different countries, and I said this is strange, right? Because you know, when there's a great marketing about a certain solution like hair loss for men, right? It must mean that there's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of marketing for hair loss for men. There's a lot of marketing for infertility for women. But
Yeah.
this level of marketing, actually, I've not seen anywhere else. So it's basically, it points to the fact that there's a problem here. And obviously, there are people who are marketing the solution. So for us to really look back into, before there was proteins, there was the food chain.
Yeah. Food
Right?
chain.
And
Right.
at the end of the day, right, basically we were told from young, you know, drink milk, have your vegetables and all of that. And the point of the matter now is that it's highly possible that, you know, we have depreciated national health, right? Public health is at a low, and there's not just a shortage of proteins, but an absolute shortage of protein health. Two out
Yeah.
of every 5 Pakistanis are food insecure, right? And you are absolutely right that we should be looking at taking that level of culture and permaculture that we had, those little gardens and like you said, when in your growing up years, where you have your
Yeah.
own lawn patches. I completely agree with you, and in fact, it is our mission as well to kickstart kinder farming. And for us, the vision is very simple. If you teach a kid to farm, there is no chance humanity will go hungry. Right?
Yeah.
You see, because at the end of the day, and now is the correct time to actually bring the combination of a new soil culture, because I think we're all very much on track now that soil health is the future way forward. And this not just impacts 95% of the food that we eat, but basically also impacts the environment. And if you
Environment.
dive a little bit deeper, in fact, we would love for you to be part of Salon B as well, which is the last day salon that talks about soil health and the future of the green built environment of Pakistan. Because what you said earlier makes a lot of sense, right? For new sustainable proteins, we would actually need to go more into urban farming, because the true farm to table actually occurs when you have farms on your rooftops, right? Or when you
Yeah.
have community farms, right? Inside, like we have so many gated communities happening right now. Real estate developers are building left, right, center. But if we can include such ideas, right, we should be able to put little permaculture, rooftop farms, and all of these gated communities. So the
Yeah.
issue here is not a lack of idea. It is basically a lack of consciousness, right, about how we
Consciousness,
can all
awareness.
work together, right? So, and this is basically why we are doing this. And what you've said is completely heartwarming. I completely agree with you. And we naturally will bring as much knowledge as we can to work with you on the subject. So let's break to any of your colleagues that want to have a conversation.
Okay, let me check. Zishan.
Actually, we have a very interesting man, Mr. Yudhishthar Lal. Are you here?
Yudhishthar.
Yudhishthar.
Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, sir. You tell.
It's good to see you here. So, as I understand, you do some interesting work near the Indus. Am I right?
Yes, sir. I'm working about Rohis our projects. I'm working with the Quest Sir Beshamzan.
So you can tell us something about the project that you're doing while we are waiting for the other guests to join. What is it that you do with Mr. Besham?
Yes, I'm on Swarming. It's our project. I'm spreading in Rohi. Sir, I will give presentation on this topic.
Okay, fine. Thank you. No problem. We just wanted a little bit of insight from you on the matter. Dr. Bishnu, thank you so much for joining us again today. Your speech on soil yesterday was spectacular. Thank you so much again for being here with us.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much.
Tell me, did you find the conversations from Eugene interesting? Do you feel that this can also be applicable for the wonderful state of Kolkata and the works that you guys are doing with regards to circularity?
Of course, it is possible to implement in our country. For that government initiative also required in a priority basis.
Yes. Actually,
Yes.
Dr. Bishnu,
And
India is ahead. I just thought I'd let you know that India is already working on good proteins. India has a good food institute, right? So I think they are doing that. But you're right, the government needs to really be more involved. Please continue.
and also empowering to the farmer community, and government should provide the facilities to the rural community. And of course, India has developed in many directions, but rural development not so much in the progress state. They are something in declining stage. But government should take the initiative to provide facilities promoting their necessities, and so government also should provide campaigning, awareness, etc. But I have seen from childhood that government funding is not mainly emphasized on the rural development particularly. Of course, city level is developing, but agriculture sectors is not developing in right way. So that is the deficiency of our country. But naturally, something is going on that is not bad. Rice production, wheat production is very good. Potato is also good in in our country. Many regions, mainly eastern regions and northern regions, is good position is there. Rice and wheats. Sugarcane also there in the UP level, UP state. But what I have observed minutely, that government policy and regulation not favorable with the farmer community and rural community. Still, they are struggling for survival, and funding is not reaching to their with as per the level. So this is the deficiency of our country. Of course, it is not published in the media or papers, but it is going on. So for that, it is a very big initiative required from the government level. I mean, policy regulations, government should introduce the policy from the parliament level, then only it will work. But now gradually progressing, mainly the innovative approach is not there. Their farming is almost a traditional way. So now in the first world country, they are approaching in a good manners. Hybrid production is there, seasonal production is there, in multiple round the year, multiple agriculture crop production is there, but here it is not like that. So that is the deficiency is there. Many institute R&D center is there. Theoretically they are working, but in the field, poor people still the poor, very bad condition over here. So that is the very sad things actually going on. Now, entrepreneur, innovators can solve the many issues. However, at present, government has taken initiative to open up the startup, and agriculture field also is progressing with the startup, and many innovators approach in this field. They are helping the rural community gradually, and hope in future, coming 10 years, progress will go in an ultimate stage, and rural people get a good position over there in terms of income, in terms of productivity, etc. Private party is now moving forward to help them. They are giving awareness. They are promoting the awareness camp and innovative idea. They are also giving solutions. They are also giving in many directions in the related to agriculture and crop productions. So this is the status as of in India.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bishnu, for sharing. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the things that you said are also similar conditions that perhaps Dr. Tanveer also can agree that many of these conditions are actually the same in Pakistan. You know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you're right. Even in Pakistan, we have the same condition because our farmers,
Yes.
they only just know that we have to produce the crop. That's it. But nowadays, market is going beyond the producing crop, because whenever you are going to wherever the crop is produced, there should be one processing unit for that particular crop product. So in this way, the monopoly of few of the companies who are manufacturing those products, that will be declined, and there will be a competition, or prices will be relatively a little bit low, and so each and every consumer can buy the products. Let's suppose if we talk about the chilies, the farmers who are producing the crop of the chili, they can have a unit of chili powder or chili sauce, like that. And even the tomato, if they are growing the tomato, they can have a unit of the tomato ketchup, so that they can supply in the market, and there will be a variety of the tomato ketchup, and everyone can have a tomato ketchup, because few of the crops, their shelf life is very low, because they contain high percentage of the water. That's why we cannot preserve them for a long period, but we can manufacture or process them into different products. So in this way, they can have a new idea, and they can generate the income too. And when we say that the nutrients, or the nutrients which are limited to few ones, they can be they can have everyone can have an approach for those products. So this is I am 100% agree with the Dr. Vishnu, I think. I forgot his name.
Vishnu, yes, Dr. Vishnu.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Yeah. So government will not do anything. All the thing we
Yes,
have to
yes,
do
yes.
by ourselves. Government will say, oh, make a policy, then who will implement? They will never hear you like that. So initiative we have to make this is the platform, and initiative we have to make a model form. And if one starts the model form, the other will definitely follow him or her, the growers. So this is what I suggest, that it should be implemented by all the farmers. At least few farmers, they can start, and others will follow them.
In our country
100%
now, yes, you are right, and it is going on in the many countries, including our country also. So one thing is, I have seen in my country, it is very good thing, that the positive side, that big corporate like Reliance Industries, ITCs, Hindustan Lever, they are agrotech and food companies. They are helping to the farmer groups, and they are purchasing the product with a good
Yeah.
prices, and farmer get the right justice from there. And that is the good approach in our country. I hope that gradually it will spread all over the country, and in the coming 10 years, farmer will get a good position, I think. Because ITC, one big corporate brand in India, and they are producing atta, I mean from wheats. They are purchasing all wheats from the farmers in UP, Punjab, Haryana, and they are giving good prices. And not only that, they are also helping to the all technology also, including everything. They are helping to the farmers, and at the same time, they are purchasing the crops from them with a good price. That is the very positive sides. Not from the government, it is from the corporate sides, corporate sectors. And same
corporate
way,
side.
Reliance Industries, Hindustan Levers, Reliance Industries, and Jain Irrigation, they are doing the same thing. but gradually it will help to the farmer community to generate the revenue. I hope it is going on in our country, because ITC and Reliance all are having,
Yeah,
they are purchasing things and they are doing the business. So in the value proposition is equal. So there is a good sign in our country.
okay, it's a good step. It's a positive step, and I
Yes.
hope that such positive steps will be taken in our country too. Because when we're talking about the Nestle is a big product here, juice and other things
Correct.
they are producing, even the national. So national company or Nestle company, they are producing their own crop. They are not purchasing from the farmers.
Oh, yes.
So this is one of the, I think, the drawback, that the farmers are not getting the good prices. They are always just thinking about some kind of the miracles. It will come from the government or like that. Taxes are very high, and the equipments or tractors which are used in cultivating the in cultivating the land, they are also they are also sold on a very high prices. So this is a mix up of the, what we say in Urdu is khichdi. So it's caused by the government. And I think if companies they don't produce their crop, they just take the crop, like you said that in your country companies are taking crops directly from the farmers and they are giving them the good price. That is the stable marketing. That is known as the stable marketing. And still we need to work in Pakistan. There is still need to work on set up of the policies.
Yes, yes.
I must thank you so much, Dr. Tanveer, and I thank you so much, Dr. Bishnu, for this wonderful exchange. Dr. Tanveer, I must let you know that Dr. Bishnu is a very keen advocate and believer in good humanity, and he was part of our salon yesterday. And interestingly, he's also working on a project using waste, and he's building circular materials for construction as well. So our counterparts in Nepal and our counterparts in Africa are all very interested in the work that he's doing. And over the next few days, I'll be engaging more with Dr. Bishnu so that we can create more possibilities for us to share research and to share ideas with each other, so that we can all basically choose a good path. So I'm very happy to let you know that there will be much more further interactions with Dr. Bishnu as well. And thank you, Dr. Bishnu, for being so cooperative and participating. Can we break to Zishan now? Welcome, Zishan. How are you? Thank you, Thank you, Dr. Bishnu. Thank you. Ji Zishan.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Zishan, are you here?
Okay, so he's having some internet issues. This message in the group. So what I'm just going to do right now is I'm going to break again to a screen, and this time I'm going to take you on a 1-minute video, a little bit about what is basically the global standard for soil health analysis, and why perhaps it is a good idea for us to rethink, right, how we approach soil. I think all of us, Dr. Tanveer, Dr. Bishnu, you would also have a good understanding that over the last few decades in India and in Pakistan, mostly our soil health has been eliminated from the conversation. Everywhere that you go around in these parts of the world, farmers are concerned about the conversation about the cost of inputs and the profit that will come from outputs. But somehow we seem to have missed the processing unit in between this whole equation, which is soil health, right? And fundamentally, soil health testing and soil health checks have really been done over the last few decades just based on, how would you say, physical and chemical properties. We've never really gone into the bio properties, because I believe at the end of the day, the best judge and the best litmus test of what is actually happening with our soil should come from the bioactivity report. It should be able to be understood from the biology that would tell us exactly that our assumptions of agricultural inputs and the type of inputs that we use, are they actually good for soil health? And possibly, in fact, it is very likely that we will all come to the same conclusion that no, it is not. right? And essentially, we are killing soil biodiversity, and we are reducing the ability of our soil structure. And essentially, our soil now, instead of being an acquisition of carbon wealth, is being a net emitter, right? So just bear with me while I share this video, 1-minute video with you. Thank you.
Biodiversity, disease risk, nutrient cycling, and stress adaptation define the health of soil and the food we grow in it. Soil is a living entity that responds to external agents such as climate change, pests, and increasingly demanding production systems. At Biome Makers, we decode the complex soil microbiome through next-generation DNA sequencing to discover which microbes live in the soil, what functions they perform as a community, providing key data to guide agricultural decision-making. Our bee crop technology is the world's largest taxonomic database of microorganisms, setting the global standard for soil health. Restore your soil health, ensure a profitable growing season, save time and money optimizing agricultural inputs, and recommend the most suitable products with Bee Crop, the global standard for soil health.
So basically, our goal, with Biome Makers, is obviously global tests, are more accurate, and they are completely more disruptive with regards to their soil reports. So in Pakistan, what we're doing is that we are sponsoring a lot of these soil tests, right? So that we can get down to the root cause of issues and working on this. So this is part of the systems that we will be also using in Pakistan, right? And we believe the future really, in line with what Dr. Tanveer also says, that we need to help farmers. We need to basically work with farmers, and we need to map the soil health of Pakistan and even in India, right? Because after this, I'm just going to pop in a very important 15 minutes session, and this is obviously by scientists, the chief scientists at Biome Makers, along with people from the US government and a very, very strong soil biodiversity expert as well, Dr. Jacob Parnell. And this was a conversation that they had a few weeks ago. And I think this conversation is very important for us to all hear and for us to actually understand. So I'm breaking away to this right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, just a minute. 1 minute. Thank you.
Even nowadays, there is a tradition of introducing soil microorganisms, especially
Yes.
those microorganisms. They help in producing soil health, the more healthier soil and the more healthier crop, instead of application of the fertilizers. So this is also a good innovative trend that they are going towards that side, and they are producing a lot of the soil-based microorganisms. And
Correct.
I think,
You're
and most of the pollutants, especially the pollutants and which are present on our land surfaces, they are not easily digestible. They are not getting away from our surfaces. So there is also some microorganisms that they introduce, those microorganisms to some quantity, and when those microorganisms, they feed the pollutants on our surfaces, they just eat and convert them into the humus and organic matter. So this is also a good strategy to improve the soil health.
I agree with you. In fact, it is a deep concern. At the end of the day, in order for us to actually create circular systems, at some point in time, if within the system there is a biosecurity check, right? So essentially, this boils down to our biosecurity. And the circular economy works because, say, for example, if you feed waste, right, to insects in order for us to create proteins. But the issue is, if the contaminants are found in this waste are also being consumed by the insects, will they create and basically will we create a harmonious broken chain? So the good news is that we have, research has pointed to the fact that the black soldier fly has the ability to actually remove these toxins, right? Because as they consume food waste, they also, as bioorganisms, they also poop, right? Their body weight out. So that byproduct is basically biofertilizers. So basically what we have is an insect that is able to help us process and valorize waste, right? In a very cheap way, right? So that it can actually produce sustainable proteins. Yes?
Yeah, I think such type of the factory can also be established here as an entrepreneur business. Because when we are leaving the pollutants on or waste, so those waste is not rarely degradable. So as Turkey, the country Turkey, they are taking all of our waste from Pakistan. They are taking waste and producing the electricity. They are converting. They have the technology to convert it more into the electricity energy. So such type of the technology should be established in our country, not we shouldn't sell our waste. Waste is gold. Nowadays, waste is gold.
Dr. Tanveer, it's a beautiful thing that you just said. And thank you for bringing that into the conversation. And I agree with you. I think that waste to energy is not sustainable, right? And quite frankly, it is a form of energy, no doubt. But the idea of taking bio waste that we can valorize and upcycle into creating more circular commodities. In fact, bio waste can be upcycled to actually create new sustainable aviation fuels, right? So why would we be burning our waste to generate electricity when we can actually valorize this waste, create fuels, create fertilizers, create all sorts of products that we can actually valorize from science? So I completely agree with you. And this is actually part of the reason of this whole summit, because we ourselves will be bringing this technology to Pakistan, and we ourselves are setting up a factory and a depot to do this. So I'll share more about that later, but I felt that this conversation that happened at BioMe Makers is very important for everyone. So I'm just going to play it right now.
Yeah, okay.
All right, good morning or good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at Biomakers for our COP28 webinar. Welcome to COP28, Amplifying Soil Health and the Climate Conversation. My name is Joy Joachim. I'm an agroecology scientist, and I'll be moderating today's panel discussion, in which we'll hear from experts on soil biodiversity and hear updates on discussions surrounding soil health from COP28. If you're unfamiliar with COP28, COP28 is the United Nations Climate Change Conference. We just concluded the 28th COP, and it was in the UAE. I'm delighted to introduce our speakers for today's discussion, starting with Dr. Alberto Acedo, the Chief Scientific Officer at Biomakers, which is a global soil biology company focused on providing actionable data on agronomic metrics. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Jacob Parnell, who is a soil biodiversity specialist at the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, and Dr. Lindsay Haram, an ecologist who serves as a climate fellow for the USDA Office of the Chief Scientist. Our agenda today involves 3 sessions, followed by a panel discussion and audience Q&A. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Alberto Acedo for soil health and innovation.
Right. Thank you very much, Joy. It's a pleasure to me to be in this webinar with this amazing panelist. An introduction, the concept of the soil health. For most of us, soil health is a characteristics that allow to get functions, to get a specific service, ecosystem service. In this case, for me, applied to the agriculture. When we are talking about soil health, there are different dimensions to take in account. FAO, the USDA are defining very well this concept that involve, for one hand, needs, that is the soil and the different physical and chemical characteristics of the different soils, but turning into an ecosystem when the life appear in that soil. In general, different forms of life are involving into the soil, and all of them, physical, chemical characteristics, and biology, converge in the concept of soil health to provide that functionality of that ecosystem service for humans. For this key aspect, we can consider that physical chemical parameters together with biology are in the core center of how to measure the soil health globally. But it's interesting also to understand that from more than 100 years, humans are controlling many parameters and the physical chemical, but biology turns like new for us because many of this life is impossible to see in a microscopy or, for example, to grow in a lab. For that, new innovations on genetics, for example, allow us now to understand the diversity that we can find in the soil. Joy, first. Next. In the case of Biomakers, as a global company, we try to use the specific soil biology as a biomarker. In this case, we are participating in non-profit initiatives that allow us to work in many countries in different projects partnered with the universities in order to understand how this bioindicator, the life in the soil, allow us to measure the soil health in different aspects. Also, we are building a community of people teaching, exchanging our experience in how to use these biomarkers. Next, Joy. Well, what kind of aspects of the soil health is possible to measure with biology? Well, in this case, very easy, detecting pathogens linked with the disease risk. Also, life in the soil is linked with the nutrient cycle, how the life allowed to the plants to get more or less nutrients to grow. Also, bioindicators linked with the stress, with the climate change. If climate change is changing, how that are affecting to specifically plant growth promoters, for example. Monitoring how the practices that we are implementing or promoting to recover soil health aspect are impacting in soil biology. That's another specific aspect. Next, Joy. In our case, we are working in more than 50 countries in many different crops. For sure, the more relevant crops that we are working are row crops like corn or soybean, but other specialty crops like vineyards or tomatoes or potatoes are in our target. We are analyzing thousands and thousands of samples covering amazing surface of land, in our case in agriculture. Next, Joy. Well, this is a map of the soil health aspect with one of our metrics that's calling the Bicop rate. Bicop rate is measuring the level of specialization in the life. In essential, when management practices are super intensive, the practices are specializing the life in the soils. With this kind of metric, we are measuring the average of the specialization in the life in agriculture fields globally. You can see that when the colors are more yellow or green, there's high values. It's like places when more regenerative practices, good practices, smart practices are implementing, and we are receiving samples from that places with higher score compared with other places with a very, very, very low score, because the intensification of the agriculture, or at least the samples that we can right now analyze for that places. And this is a kind of map that allow us to understand how the soil biodiversity linked with the soil health concept is globally. I think that is very interesting because I never see something like similar connected with the management practice, not only to describe the soil biology in the field. Next, Joy. Well, this is how we can explain this kind of metric, the level of specialization of the microbial communities. But this is something that you can read in one of our papers, because we like also to exchange our knowledge. Next, Joy. This is how we are measuring this microbe rate. Low levels, D, C, are like conventional agriculture practices. Levels between B and A are more regenerative. A can be very linked with organic agriculture. A plus is like the less intervention management that we can find in agriculture fields. A plus plus, in many cases, are natural environments like jungles. Next, Joy. Well, it's not only about using the soil biology as biomarker. We are mixing also many, many different metrics to understand the context of the life that we are able to measure in different places. That allows us to understand what kind or what's the relevance of the environmental context to the biological context, how they are impacting. For example, the climate change, how temperature change are affecting to the specialization or not of the microbial communities, the level of pathogens, or, for example, the decrease on plant growth promoters that in general are the species that allow the plant to resist against specific difficult environmental conditions. Next, Joy. But the more interesting thing is we can evaluate, we can diagnostic, we can predict also with AI what can be the future connecting environmental parameters, management practices, and soil biology knowledge. But the key is what we can do to promote this not only in a specific place, if not globally. In our case, we are testing solutions. We are testing, for example, management practices together with universities and also partnership with manufacturer companies of input solutions, for example, understanding the level of efficacy of that solutions, but also understanding the level of impact of that solution in soil biology. The goal is to understand what are the more efficacy mix of solutions that we are able to recommend to specifically different lands, different farmers, with a level of uncertainty in order to get or preserve the soil biology or recover the soil biology in that place and maintain yield and to be very productive too. Next, Joy. Well, in this case, we are also working globally, and we can, for example, to compare one specific solution at efficacy level, or in this case of the nutrient efficacy level, the way to mobilize nutrients by the application of a solution, compared with the average of products that are in the market, and to understand if one specific solution are promoting our efficacy level, the life in the soil in one direction compared with other. Next, Joy. Thanks to that, we are able also to understand if one specific solution are more recommending in specific areas because the specification of the crops, or because the sums that we are able to calculate at an environmental level, and maybe why in other specific places that some solutions are not very effective, or also can affect in a specific way the soil biodiversity.
One more minute.
Perfect. Thanks to that, we not only can work at a status level, at country level, we also can advise specifically farmers. It's like the precision agriculture in the way that each field is different, each farmer is applying different programs of management practices, and in each field we can identify different biomarkers coming from the biology in the soil, and because of that, the specification of the recommendation can be different. Next, Joy, please. Next again. And in this case, we try to be super transparent. We try to exchange this knowledge with public institutions, but also as a private company, we are happy to work together with the industry to achieve our goal: better soil, better food, and better life.
Excellent, thank you. With that, we'll begin session 2. We have Dr. Jacob Parnell. I will hand it over to you, Jacob, and here we go.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to present here a little bit. So thank you for that. So I'm going to start off by just saying that I am completely biased. I think soils and biology in the soils is the answer to just about every problem we have. And I really believe that soils are just an amazing resource that is obviously not as well understood as it should be for how much comes from it. They're a beautiful resource, and they provide so many services, ecosystem services, that we often take for granted. So if you can go ahead to the next slide. So as such, soils tend to be a place where not only we kind of dump everything, but they're also kind of, I believe, a solution to many of the problems that we have. So this is a slide from the Global Soil Partnership at the FAO, and it shows a lot of these big crises that we're facing. Pollution, antimicrobial resistance, fertilizer crisis, biodiversity loss, all of these big things. And I love the fact that they don't really put that it's the problem. So because a lot of these, for example, carbon sequestration, soils have more carbon wrapped up in soils than do all the vegetation or the atmosphere of Earth. And so it's just a known that they can either be an incredible sink for carbon, where we can tie up a lot of carbon from the atmosphere, or if we treat them poorly, they can also become a tremendous source of carbon as that carbon starts to degrade and starts to be put into the atmosphere. The fertilizer crisis, that's another example where the soil biology, there is so much in the soil that is able to provide fertility for the plants that it's kind of like it's just a thing that's there, and the soils can potentially be the answer to a lot of these issues. And these are like the big issues, the big problems, the global problems that we're facing. And so I think it's really cool that the biggest problems that we're facing are things that we're walking on every day. So just that soil that's right beneath our feet, that's where the answer is. So we'll head to the next slide. So right now we know that about 1/3 of the soils on the planet are degraded. And that number is expected to go up to about 90% by the year 2050 if we don't do anything, if it's business as usual. And part of the problem is that because we get so many of these great ecosystem services that we take for granted coming from soils, it's hard to imagine what it's going to be like when those ecosystem services start to be hampered, start to disappear or be diminished in any way. Now, typically, when we measure soil degradation, we're either measuring soil chemical processes or the soil physical characteristics of the soil. So when these assessments are done looking at soil degradation, they're looking at erosion, for example, the erodibility of the soils, or nutrient depletion of the soils. So there's very little where they actually look at soil, the biology in the soil, but that's where everything is happening. We know that there was a recent report that came out that said about almost 60% of the species on Earth call soil their home. So they really live in the soils. Soils are alive, and we kind of haven't been treating them as though they're alive. There's a great graphic that I saw that talks about kind of about conventional agriculture. And it really shows that conventional agriculture in the past has been to feed the plant. And we need to move away from that to where we're feeding the soil. And that's what's really going to be able to take care of the plant in the end, instead of just feeding the plant and having the soil at the expense of the soil. So if we can go to the next slide. So one of the things, and this is the reason why I think that a lot of those problems are solved in the biology of soils. So if we think about the evolution of life on Earth, microbes showed up about 3.8 billion years ago. And so microbes have been around for a very long time. So the bacteria in the soil. And then we've got, you know, the fungus the other microorganisms that start to show up. We've got, you know, fungus that starts to show up. It's not until about 700 million years ago that the plants actually show up. And they show up. So not only are they showing up in a world that is just chock full of microbes, but they actually come from the microbes themselves. So they evolve from this soup of microbes that are there. And so when we try to pull microbes or try to pull the plant out of that evolutionary context and say, we need to grow crops this way, without taking that evolutionary context into account, I think is where we start to make some errors. And I think this slide might be animated and might have some things that come. Okay, so yeah, so for example, we looked at that 80% of plant species are symbiotically linked with microbes. Now this isn't like what Dr. Acedo was talking about, where he talks about just there are benefits that the plants receive from what's going on within the soil from microbes. These are actually where the microbes in the plant are recognizing each other, they're interacting with each other, and they're providing some kind of a benefit. And there are some that are listed here as specific examples. For example, the symbiotic relationship between legumes and nitrogen fixers. We also look at mycorrhizae that kind of form these long networks that go out and really are able to kind of mine nutrients for the plant. So if we look at 80% of the species that are able to do that, and when we do traditional crop breeding, traditional conventional agriculture, we're basically pulling that apart and just trying to take care of the plant all by itself. So let's go ahead to the next. Now, and then of course, this is an interaction that is extremely important, especially in the context of COP28 that just finished, where we look at where does soil organic carbon come from. And it's that about 60%, up to 60% of soil organic carbon. So originally the plants are pushing all of this carbon into the soil as root exudates and as the roots themselves. But really what's happening is the microbes are taking that, they're degrading it, and then they're basically dying, and it's the microbes, necromass and microbial just metabolites and that are making up the bulk of that organic carbon, that soil organic matter that's in the soil. And that's what's going to make the difference. And so it's, you know, if we're going to put carbon into soils, it really starts with the microbes that we have in the soils. Those are the ones that actually get converted into that stable organic pool of soil carbon. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So one of the things that I'm working on here at the Food and Agriculture Organization is to bring people together to say we really need to start doing a better job of incorporating soil biology and biodiversity when we're talking about soils. These soil degradation maps and these numbers that we're getting shouldn't be about chemistry and the soil physical properties without any biological context at all. And so I coordinate an international network on soil biodiversity. These are people that are interested in knowing what's going on with soil biodiversity. So this is a QR code that takes you to the website of how you can join this network. It's free to join. You don't have to have any big credentials. You don't have to have it. It's just saying, I want to know what's going on, and maybe I want to participate and be able to help what's going on. Right now, there are 4 working groups that we have. One is to figure out what is it that we should be measuring. So part of the problem with looking at these soils that have been degraded, that 33% of soils that have been degraded, we know that it's a problem. We know that the biology in the soils provides so many ecosystem services, but we haven't ever really measured that. So we don't know what that degradation has done to those ecosystem services. We don't even know what that degradation that we can see physically and chemically has really done to the biology of the soils, just because that hasn't been measured to the extent that it really needs to be. And so the first group is to really look and say, how do we measure that? What kind of measurements do we collect? And how do we start to monitor what soil biodiversity is and how it changes and how it impacts ecosystem services? And then we've got a second working group within that network. And that second working group is really aimed at, okay, so how do we actually preserve soil biodiversity? It doesn't make any sense to say we should just stop farming altogether, because I would get hungry pretty quickly. So we need to say, how can we still continue to feed the world, but we're also taking care of soil biodiversity? So we're making sure that we're doing it in a smart and sustainable way. The third working group is really looking at what are the economics of soil biodiversity. So I'll jump to the fourth working group first. This is the working group about policy, about how do you put incentives around biodiversity? How do you put laws that protect soil biodiversity, or incentives that promote more sustainable practices? Because that's really what is going to be what's going to make the difference for politicians, is to be able to say, well, look, this is how much that ecosystem service is going to cost. So if you want clean water, that the soils are basically purifying and cleaning the water, if you want that clean water, without that ecosystem service from the soil, this is how much it's going to cost. So then they're able to say, oh, financially, it benefits us to be able to solve all of these problems with soil biology rather than trying to treat the problem after it's already happened. So those are the 4 working groups. And we just announced last December that we are going to be exploring and I guess really building a global soil biodiversity observatory. So this is where we're going to start monitoring soil biodiversity all over the world. There are 194 different countries that signed on saying that we need to do this, and we need to figure out how to do that. So that's one of the goals of this international network on soil biodiversity, is to come up with how we're going to measure it, and all of these things that are going into this global soil biodiversity observatory to say, this is how we use biodiversity to solve these problems that we're facing. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to follow that link and join the International Network on Soil Biodiversity. And again, it might sound like I'm preaching a little bit, like I'm televangelizing or something, but I really do think that soil biodiversity, the soils, biology of soils, is really where a lot of the answers to our current problems lie. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Parnell. That was excellent. Next, we will start session 3. We have Dr. Lindsay Haram, who works in the Office of the Chief Scientist and works for Aim for Climate. So I will pass it over to you, Lindsay, and there you go.
Thanks much, Joy, and thanks for the invitation to be here today. I appreciate it. We can go ahead to the first slide. So as Joy said, I'm the Innovation Sprint lead for the Aim for Climate initiative, or the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate, which is an international initiative co-led by the United States through the U.S. Department of Agriculture and other agencies, along with the United Arab Emirates. And we are essentially a network or collective of partners that seek to address climate change and global hunger simultaneously by uniting participants in a collective network, that with the goal of significantly increasing investment and other support in climate smart agriculture in our agri-food systems over a 5-year period. So the Aim for Climate initiative was launched at COP26 by the UAE and United States. And we have this 5-year period from 2021, when it was launched, to 2025, where we're really trying to drive investment and greater involvement and public-private partnerships in policy and real on-the-ground projects that are taking place. And those real on-the-ground projects or innovation sprints is what I lead and help move forward. In the context of COP28, we're really using COPs as a milestone for our Aim for Climate partnerships. So during each COP, we take a look at the progress to date from the previous year and launch new partnerships and investment announcements as well. So at COP28 this year, we announced that our Aim for Climate initiative, now through the great work of our partners, has an investment of over $17 billion in climate smart agriculture from our government partners and innovation sprint partners. And I'll tell you more about what each type of partner we have in our group in a bit. So there are 3 main objectives of the Aim for Climate initiative. The first is to really drive investment. So we're, through this group, trying to demonstrate collective commitment to significantly increasing investment in agricultural innovation for climate smart ag and food systems. Why this is important? The agricultural sector globally accounts for 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions. However, we only really see about 4% of climate finance going to the agricultural sector to find solutions for that large chunk of emissions that's happening from our agricultural and agri-food systems. So through the Aim for Climate initiative, we're really trying to get both government and non-government partners to really commit to investing in research and development about climate smart agriculture, as well as scaling the technology that's already in place. So from investment, we're also looking for impact. Dollars are great, but what's actually happening from the money that's invested? So the InfraClimate Initiative creates support frameworks and structures to enable discussions to take place. And we're promoting expertise, knowledge, and priorities across both national and international scales. So the way that we go about really creating collective impact is through engagement, and this can be both formally and informally. For example, on the formal side, we establish structures for exchanges between ministers. We have ministerials that happen every year, at least once, and can also happen in conjunction with other events like COP28, where there was a ministerial event. And this is really a place for government leadership to come together and relay the commitments that they are making and the progress that they've made to date related to climate smart ag. So bringing governments together and allowing there to be a place for joint discourse. We also try to create opportunities for our non-government partners to interact as well. So for example, at COP28, we had 7 total sessions that we created within the blue zone and the green zone. The blue zone is your government partner, high-level partner zone, and then your green zone was open to anyone, essentially. So anyone from the public could be part of the green zone. It's essentially like a conference, a climate conference that you would go to learn about what's going on related to climate change in many different topic areas. So we had 7 different events, all of which showcased our innovation sprint partners in some way, providing them opportunities to really interact and hopefully build collaboration. One that I was particularly excited about was bringing together a group that works on RNA-based pesticide management, specifically in their innovation sprint about honeybee health, with another partner who is using advanced technology to create sensors, a sensor network in beehives that will be open access and help address, essentially provide data, a lot of data on beehive health through sensors. So linking those two up in a conversation for one of our sessions is now hopefully going to lead to them partnering up in their scaling efforts in Africa next year. So that's one example of how we create opportunity for coalescence. Next slide. Thank you. So we have 3 types of participation in the InfraClimate Initiative. As I have alluded to, we have government partners, which are government entities, usually agriculture ministers or ministries, and then also innovation sprints, which can be both non-government and government, so public-private partnerships as well as knowledge partners. For our government partners, we're really looking to sway them toward announcing increases in aggregate funding for climate smart agriculture. So unlike the Paris Agreement, which is a binding agreement, a legally binding agreement, Aim for Climate and many of the initiatives that take place in the COP frameworks or at the COP conferences are informal agreements. They're meant to create relationships, create momentum behind a given cause, in this case, climate smart agriculture. And so with our government partners, we're really trying to bring everyone on board to help, bolster interest and accelerate investment in climate smart agriculture. For our Innovation Sprint partners, these can be non-government participants. They're teams generally, so you can have a single entity be an Innovation Sprint partner, or you can have a team of, I think for one of our Innovation Sprints, that was launched at COP28, they had 23 different non-governmental partners all working together on a specific innovation sprint. And these innovation sprints are an announcement in increased investment for a specific project that's supposed to enable a bold idea related to climate smart agriculture. They're usually research and development projects. They can be scaling projects as well. They can be a mix of the two. But the big thing is that they take place on the Aim for Climate timeline. So from 2021 to 2025. So really trying to get momentum moving quickly for research and development about climate smart agriculture and scaling of the technologies that are developed. Then we have our knowledge partners as well, which Biomakers is a knowledge partner of the Aim for Climate initiative. These are non-government participants that are really interested in doing excellent work related to climate smart agriculture, who want to be part of the Aim for Climate initiative and help amplify the work that's being done by partners within our networks. So it's a very open initiative. We have a lot of opportunity for engagement. Last year, or it's not 2024 yet, but it's almost 2024. In May 2023, we had the Aim for Climate Summit here in Washington, DC, that brought together a bunch of our partners to talk about the progress to date, which was excellent, and we plan to hopefully do another one of those in the future. We also always have people on the ground at the COP conferences as well to help move forward work in this area. So if you're interested in learning more about Aim for Climate, please visit our website at aimforclimate.org. You can also reach out to me as well at lindsay.harum@usda.gov for more information about the Aim for Climate initiative. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the COP28 outcomes, or still sort of they're in draft at this point. So we saw some excellent work from our partners, our UAE partners, to get a declaration out for sustainable agriculture that has a good number of signatories, over 150, I believe. So really seeing commitment to bringing agriculture into the fold of climate solutions, but the larger global stocktake effort, which is the first time that the COP parties are taking a look at progress to date and charting a plan forward, is still in draft and hasn't yet been finalized. So there's still more to come in the COP28 arena in terms of progress to date on that. But yeah, if anyone is interested in learning more about COP28 and how Aim for Climate was involved, please visit our website and learn more. I think that's it.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr.
you.
Hem, that was great. And now we are on to our panel discussion. So there are some questions we have here. The first two are for Dr. Alberto Ocedo. What's your ideal goal for increasing biodiversity?
Well, first of all, we need to understand what means biodiversity. Biodiversity is a very complex concept that can involve number of species or complexity of a community of life in terms of percentage or abundance of species together, beta, alpha diversity, and scientific metrics to follow. When we are talking about biodiversity, we are talking about a kind of bioindicator based in ecology that is influenced by management practices. The ideal goal to increasing biodiversity is to promote the life in the soil, the functionality in the soil, but at the same time, doing that allow to maintain yields and productivity and quality of the food, getting a balance between nature and human needs. That's for me the ideal goal when we are talking about to increase biodiversity, because we cannot consider agriculture like the nature. It's different, but getting a balance when biodiversity can be involved in the economics of the agriculture is the ideal goal for me to achieve.
Excellent. Okay, and then the next question also here, what benefits will we see regarding climate change from increased biodiversity?
Well, we have data that in many places, increasing biodiversity involve more functionality, and especially for a group of microbes that are calling plant growth promoters. Reviewing all the literature that we know, the scientific knowledge that we know, there is this specific species, the plant growth promoters, allow the plant to grow under difficult conditions. For example, under high level of salinity and the high level of drought. And we have experimental data, for example, adding biodiversity promoters like biostimulants, that when in the field was decreasing fertigation, included with that level of stress, we observe a high increase on yield and also the size of the production. This is a very nice example that if we understand biology and how to play with the biology, we can fight against climate change, promoting this piece of the biodiversity that allow to the plant to grow better.
Excellent, thank you. All right, and our next question, Jay, for Dr. Parnell, where are we at today with soil biodiversity progress? Where do you think we currently stand?
So I think that there is a lot of motivation out there to start looking at soil biodiversity. It was mentioned, as I said in the last COP, Aim for Climate has had big summits. There are a lot of people that are talking about biodiversity. The problem is there aren't a lot of people saying this is how you measure it. I think like Dr. Acedo said, that it's a fairly complex thing to understand. You know, the great thing about things like you know, if you look at soil chemical or physical properties, you can go and you can measure pH, and you can have a nice map of what pH looks like across a field, across a state, country, globally. The question is, how do you do that with biodiversity, and have it be something that's meaningful? I mean, you could do that with a component of, you could do that with alpha proteobacteria, or you could do that with earthworms, or you could do something like that. But those are just components of this bigger picture of biodiversity. And so I think I think one thing that we need to do is we need to come together and we need to say, what are those bioindicators that are most important for soil biodiversity, so that we can come up with just a couple of things that we can say, these are the important things, and now we can map them, we can show them to policymakers or even or farmers or whoever it is to say, this is what your practice is doing to biodiversity. And then they would understand that a lot better than if we tried to show them a big table of all of the bacteria or fungal strains that are missing or that are present in different soils.
Okay, thank you. And then following up from your mentioning about ecosystem services, what does it look like to align soil biodiversity with some sort of monetary amount?
You know, I wish I knew, but I think it is going to come down to realizing that sustainability can be profitable, and so it takes a little while to get there, to kind of wean ourselves away from conventional agriculture, for example, to get into a place where, you know, you're practicing good no-till agriculture, and you've got a healthy ecosystem. The ecosystem has kind of bounced back and has kind of become restored, and it can become a productive system. But first of all, that takes a little while, and you lose some agricultural productivity during that time. But then when you do get to that point, the resiliency of your fields is much better. It's a lot better water holding capacity in those fields that you don't. So a drought comes and your fields are going to do a lot better than if you hadn't done it. And so I think it takes kind of a long time look at these things to be able to say, you know, this is really what it's, you know, how much it's going to save us monetarily. And to be honest, I think it's a cheap fix. The amount of the investment that it takes to put into, I mean, Dr. Haram mentioned how much is put into changing into more regenerative agriculture. Really a cheap fix for the problems that we're looking at compared to some of the options that are out there.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question is for Dr. Haram. What are ways stakeholders can get involved with the innovation sprints at Aim for Climate?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So I'm biased in my position in that I am the innovation sprint lead. So I really encourage folks who are working on essentially research projects or development projects at home or abroad related to moving to regenerative agriculture, for example, related to investigating those metrics that Dr. Farnell talked about. Those types of projects can easily translate to innovation sprints within the Aim for Climate network. So, for example, we have both more academically based research as innovation sprints versus one that was announced at COP28, which was a $500 million investment in regenerative landscapes. So moving supply chains to regenerative agriculture for some major heavy hitting companies, global companies. So, you know, we go from $150,000 investment. So we're talking about a pilot study scale investment in food waste and loss versus $500 million investment. There's really a huge broad spectrum of ways you can get involved as an innovation sprint. And really, we have about it's about a dozen of our 78 innovation sprints are focused on soil health in some way. A lot of it is related to regenerative agriculture, so how to scale regenerative agriculture, but also getting into the mechanics of carbon sequestration and the impacts of some of our enhancements that people are looking into for carbon sequestration on soil health. That's another avenue that I think is really apt for more research, and would love to see folks working on that get involved as innovation sprints. So visit the Aim for Climate website. There's a innovation partner framework on our website that details what it means to become an innovation sprint partner, what an innovation sprint looks like, and how you propose an innovation sprint. And as I said before, I'm also here to answer questions one-on-one.
We can't hear you, Turabai. You are mute.
Thank you. So the reason why I shared this, I think it is very clear now that the world is looking to help and work with everyone. We have BioMe Makers, who is willing to partner with universities. We have the FAO, UN Biodiversity. We have Aim for Climate that is looking to spend $17 billion. Now, the idea here is that everything that was said at that meeting is relevant to the Global South. It is relevant to Dr. Tanveer and Dr. Bishnu as well. You know, I think, and even Mr. Khalid from Egypt, right? All of us need to really look at the ideas that the worlds are looking for, right? And the parameters that shape these ideas. And we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day, can we reduce this knowledge gap, right? So part of the reason of our summit is to help reduce the knowledge gap, as I'm sure that with this recorded speech that happened a few weeks ago, I think you can see the amount of information and the amount of knowledge that is available for us to consume and for us to be able to take right way actions on. Is Dr. Renuka here? Dr. Bilal?
Yes, Turabai, I'm here.
Yes. So what were your thoughts on the video?
I think it's perfect. I haven't heard more articulate discussion, you know, on the need of soil health and how different stakeholders can come together to like shape this thing. And we need all the stakeholders, you know, because it's never been part of a discussion before, not just in Pakistan, forget Pakistan, not even in the Western world. It's never been part of the discussion, because there is always a business end of every discussion, and soil health has never been on the business end of any discussion, because who cares about the microorganism, right? Unless you know, but actually, but they defined it, how they explained it, you know, how we should care about, how they do matter, and we overlook it. And I think they presented a perfect case. And I really liked when, you know, you mentioned that BioMe Makers will be our partners for Pakistan when I was joining MetaGood. So I think we're going to do great things for Pakistan and for beyond with this partnership for soil health. I have heard from farmers, I've heard from researchers, I've heard from you know, agri-tech professionals that the ability to test the soil and to check the health of it is not really there. We recently did 2 stories. I did as a journalist, and I covered how with citrus and with onions, farmers were struggling to, you know, identify the disease of it from soil, because certain fungal diseases, you know, they spread through soil. They're soil borne. So unless we can't even diagnose it, we can't even like find out the true cause of it, we can't cure it. And this thing is, you know, then those diseases, those fungus, those everything, it's becoming the part of food chain. So it is necessary for the food security as well. It's necessary for our agriculture sector as well. So that's how much significant it is. I mean, when many people didn't realize, but when they realized it when they were buying onions for 200 rupees per kg in the past 2 months, and then they realized, you know, that we need to sustain our soil health so that we can have, you know, public health and food security as well. So I look forward to, you know, this partnership with MetaGood, between MetaGood and Makers.
Well, thank you, Bilal, for sharing your knowledge. And as you can see, Biome Makers Aim for Climate and UN Biodiversity, they work with everyone, right? They work, they have a non-profit. Biome Makers is a non-profit. They work with universities. So naturally, it will be our goals as well to basically develop such partnerships with the University of Sindh and ORIC as well. And I think the chief scientist from Aim for Climate, right? She also mentioned very clearly that research, right? I think we must pay closer attention to what was said and the opportunities that are available for us. Samuel, you raised your hands earlier. You wanted to ask a question. Are you there?
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Actually, looking at the recorded speech, that's just complete. Now I know I'm not crazy. I used to think I was actually crazy because I've been trying to do something in that line before. And from one of the things I was able to pick from the presentation was that the soil is a home to 60% of the earth. 60% home for every living organism on the earth. So, and
sorry, you might have to speak up again. We lost you there for a minute.
That's 60. The soil is 60% home for the living organism on the earth, and that means what you feed into the earth is what you get back in return. So, looking at that, I discovered from research that Africa, but Nigeria in particular, is actually having less footprints of most of this technology being developed in the developed part of the world. So I want to ask, now that we have soldiers being raised for climate change in Africa, how do we actually have a share of this knowledge by, you know, partners in knowledge, partners in implementation, and the re-implementation of a thing? How do you actually impact this and get this across to us so that we can actually, you know, have an impact and save Africa? Thank you.
So thank you for asking a very vital question. Let me answer this. Firstly, the purpose of the summit is to actually do this, is to bridge that gap. Our purpose is to actually bring together the knowledge that is available around the world, including in the Global South as well, as we saw yesterday from Carbon Zero and Mission East, both doing wonderful work that we can all link up with. You see, a lot of things on the planet requires us to seek knowledge. And the pursuit of knowledge is really the duty of all of us. And sometimes due to the barriers that are created in different cultures or in different parts of the world, not everybody has the same amount of knowledge. So it is the opinion and the mission of the summit committee. You know, we've teamed up with the GSFN is part of our shares the same values as well. And together we basically want to bridge this divide. Now, I've always had this conversation with a lot of impact investors over the last 2 years with regards to the need for them to actually look at the Global South. However, I think as part of the narrative that was discussed in this recorded message, right? The commercialization, people often go to where the money is, right? And sometimes ecosystems are created. For example, there's a great ecosystem in Singapore that is created for startups. There's a great ecosystem in the Netherlands. There's a great ecosystem in the UAE. Well, we don't have such systems in the global south. So for us, it is really a mission here that after we've done, considerable research and, a great understanding that the conditions in Pakistan are very much similar in all of the other global south nations as well. So for us, this summit is about bridging that gap. And naturally, what we will be doing is obviously looking to tie up and team up and collaborate with stakeholders such as yourself, right? In different countries around the world. I think you are in Nigeria. Nigeria is already part of the list, right? And where we would basically look at the outcomes and we would look at developing the best model and the best actions that we can develop from the summit, right? For Pakistan to be a benchmark, for Pakistan to be a model case study of how, a country can valorize itself and how Pakistan as a benchmark can actually set the standard to help other global south nations as well, right? Because, I think the impact will be far greater if the global south, progresses at the same united speed and at the same time has the same consciousness that we can actually drive, we can take advantage of conditions that have been created by the global north, and they need some help and they have the money for it as well. So they need viable research projects, they need collaboration, right? They need us in the global south to bring ideas and people together. And obviously along the way as well, they would expect us to have the correct business sense, right? To develop sustainable projects, right? There's been a lot of talk, for example, in the last few years, about this country has raised that amount of funds, that funds. A lot of startup funding around the world, has been lost funding because it just comes and goes, right? And there's no accountability also associated with the amount of Scope 3 emissions generated from such funding and from such failed projects. So for us, I think that the time is now where we actually design sustainability within our projects as well. We look at the SDGs, we look at ESG, and we actually have a sustainable business model, because the situation is such that I believe we're all fighting for the futures of our nations. I believe we are all fighting for our nations, to have an equitable say in the world, right? So that we can have we can have Nigeria as a green economy champion, creating sustainable green economies from sustainable SDG 11 sustainable cities and communities, right? Imagine if each of us looked at the approach of our future development from the same point of view that is needed in the world to actually reduce and reverse climate change, right? I think the global south can actually be a balance. So from that perspective, the summit is the mission. The summit is the mission to basically help, to bring knowledge and to team up with different partners in the world. And naturally, we have a lot of great people. The GSFN, Dr. Renuka Thakur has reached out to an entire massive network, and she's brought upon some really good people, right, who are willing to help. So it's about helping each other and understanding the gaps here. So I hope I've answered your question, Samuel, because we are here to help. And at the same time, a lot of these organizations also have their own chapters, right? You can develop your own projects, reach out to Aim for Climate, look at their sprint innovation, reach out to BioMe makers if you're not from Pakistan and you're or from India, and speak with them. Otherwise, I'm here to help as well. You can reach out directly to the UN Biodiversity. They want to work with people on this. So the world is calling for help. So it's time for us to answer that call. Dr. Bishnu, what are your thoughts? Do you feel that your university in Kolkata can benefit from such partnerships as well?
Yes, my university is actually a private university, but I'm trying to develop the innovative cell, and I'm looking for these things. And along with a group of students, I have started research and direct research in the field, mainly related to circular economy process. how waste become a good material, secondary materials, or how waste become a wealth. That I am taking care in the university and developing innovative cell. I hope that in future the student will be motivated on this aspect, and college university vice chancellor also agreed to develop this cell. So hope in future I'll be able to develop the prototype of the different product. Already I have developed some concrete and bricks that is in different institute, but this new institute I am trying to develop innovative cell to mobilize this type of work and mainly startup. So that is my aim now as a civil engineer or as a civil and environmental engineer. So my aim is this. This program also helped me to realization the actual fact. So very good program in this platform, and also you have exchanged many knowledgeable things that really I'm very happy, and really good things that you also shared many ideas, many thoughts, and your past and future, everything. So it's really I appreciate.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I think, we've just only begun, right? So I appreciate your kind words, and hopefully in a few years from now, when we've all actually made significant transitions, then we can sit together and look back at the journey, because it's all about starting a journey now, and perhaps there's a way. I understand what you mean, that being as a private university, you may be concerned whether there will be support available. I still encourage you to write to all of these people, right? And I think I will connect with you as well for other opportunities, because Buy Me Makers has a knowledge program as well. So I believe that can be considered. One way that you can perhaps overcome this is, as a private university, to actually do a scientific research partnership with a public university, so that you actually are able to help two universities with one program. So it's all about innovative thinking and how you bring ideas together, right? So that could be a great way to actually bridge the gap as well with regards to being a private university. But also, it is worth mentioning that the university conditions and education systems in both Pakistan and India and many parts of South Asia are the same. Largely, a lot of universities are private universities, simply because, there isn't enough funding to ensure that the local universities or the government universities, right, are up to par, right? So this is also unfortunate. Essentially, when there's a great realization that the systems are broken, then I think at some point in time we have to work with the government. We have to basically create collaboration ourselves. Maybe the governments are overworked in this part of the world. It's a large population, it's a large demographic, very large countries, right? So at the end of the day, the education sector and the corporate sector, especially the corporate sector, I would like you to pay a lot of attention to the corporate sector, because a lot of corporations in the global south, right, are part of the supply chain of the global north. And naturally, the global north has indicated the need to set net zero standards, right? They would be looking to basically their supply chains in the global south to also follow suit, right? So everyone's looking to reduce their scope 3 emissions. So as universities, as startups, if you create projects that are in line with SDGs, if you create projects that are in line with Nature Positive, if you create projects that help these organizations offset their scope 3 emissions. Right now, a lot of organizations in this part of the world are buying international IREX energy certifications. They are buying carbon credits to basically balance their books. Isn't it time that these corporations all come together to actually develop these carbon credits or all of this in their own nations, to invest in their own nations, so that essentially the offsetting can actually have some benefit instead of paying far off nations, right? So every country should be basically looking at this as a point of view. But we'll share more on this later. Thank you so much for your insight, and thank you so much for your kind words.
Thank you, sir.
Who else is here? Mr. Khalid Hamid, thank you so much again for joining us. You joined us yesterday as well. Well, what are your thoughts? How do you feel we can bridge? You are also part of our system. You know, you are leading the education side and you are helping us as well. So perhaps we can hear a few words from you, Mr. Khalid.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so sorry because my video actually I have the poster. If I do the video, maybe I lost the connection because you know Egypt a little bit. It's not so good for connection. But anyway, I'm actually about my education. Actually, I don't know how I can share my project. I have project actually that's three things in my project: multilingual and music curriculum and computer science. That's also support for all ages, and also in multilingual teaching computer science and music curriculum that for all kind of instrument and all kind of styles in music. And also about computer science, that's also that can help for all women, girls and youth around the world, especially in Africa. And also I have my project actually created by videos and audios, can also on site and can also online. And also I am if maybe during this the summit of Pakistan, I can also share my project as well in PDF. I think I have a registration about my session. Actually, I don't know is that available. That's my project, but I think it will be useful for all youth around the world, because it's you know, at this time the all people contact with the all devices, but only in one languages. But some of people don't understand actually if they don't have connection with their mother languages. My project will be support for all youth about that. I hope I can deliver something useful around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid, for your insight. You are indeed part of our summit. And indeed, you will have full carte blanche to present your ideas at the education salon as well. And it's interesting that you are here today, because essentially what we are also looking to do is we have the same values as you. We believe that, you know, education is the answer, and I like particularly that you also have AI and music in your curriculum as well. And we are currently also looking to develop a curriculum for soil education, right? We are looking to work with Mr. Peter Clayton, who's based out in Australia. He's a puppet artist, and we're looking to create and we also work with Planet Soil in Pakistan. So we're looking to basically create, you know, a Sesame Street of soil animals, right? Because essentially, I think it's about, and also in the local cultures and the local dialects. I agree with you that, you know, we need to basically merge the world together. No doubt English is the lingua franca of the world, but, you know, as we go more grassroots level, English doesn't have to be the way that we teach. It's about the systems, right? So it's about bringing knowledge in a way that people can understand. So it's a pleasure that you're with us, and we hope to hear more from you. And you will certainly be able to share more with us on the Education Day Salon, which I believe is on the 31st. So thank you so much again, Mr. Khalid.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Thank you.
So Bernard, thank you for joining us, Bernard.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think, you know, it's best that you introduce yourself, because I think you're doing some phenomenal work, you and Dr.
Just excuse me for a minute. Sure. I'm going to leave the meeting and join you just after half an hour or so. So please continue. Welcome, Bernard. And thank you so much, Dr. Bisnu, for sharing. I was listening. I will comment later. And Khalid, I would just suggest that you can put your PDF you mentioned always in the chat, so people might see, but we have already uploaded, I think, Turab, on the website as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
so basically, it's just a little bit lack
So
of
please
sleep.
continue. I will
Yeah.
leave and I will be back again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Dr. Atun. Bye-bye.
So Bernard, tell us a little bit more about what you do and how are you connected with GSFN and what's happening in Africa.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I am Bernard Mulenda from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm a founder of a Pan-African Development Organization called Action for Development of Africa, ADA, with actually 4 branches: Congo, Zambia, Kenya, and Ghana. ADA is actually focusing on 4 objectives, which are women employment, the youth entrepreneurship, the capacity building, and the sustainable development. So we are really focusing on agribusiness system, where we are trying to improve work condition of small-scale farmers, especially women who are working in rural conditions and youth. So that is what we are actually focusing on. Thank you.
Great. So just a couple of questions. So have you been looking at the impact points of your project from an SDG perspective? And what sort of communities are you looking to impact with the project? And what do you think would be the outcome of the project? For example, I mean, are you looking to develop a certain type of commodity, or you're looking to develop something, regenerative? Do you have more insights on that?
Yeah, when we look at the SDG objectives, I think, as I mentioned, we are focusing on the women employment, which is actually creating the equality between men and women. But also we are looking about the when we are working on the agriculture, we are fighting against hunger, poverty. When we look at the youth and the capacity building, that's where we are focusing on health and the climate change. So the way that we have decided to focus on those 4 countries, I mean Congo, because within Congo we are interacting directly with the Central Africa region, and as you know, Congo, we have got a very big, the large space of Congo Basin, which is very important for the carbon emission, which is actually covering 6 countries. So from Congo, we can easily impact with all those Central African countries. When we look at our position with Zambia, Zambia is helping us to interact with southern region, I mean SADC countries, because as you know, Zambia is actually taking the leadership of the southern region countries. Then from Kenya, we are directly interacting with the Eastern African community, where we have Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya. And then when we go to the Western region, that's where we have Ghana to interact directly with all the West African countries. So that's how we decided to interact with the continent and different economic areas. But apart of that, we are actually engaging with the African Union Commission, especially the commission in charge of agriculture, sustainable development, and blue economy. And that's where with the GSFN, I would like to develop a project where we directly link with the Commission of African Union in charge of agriculture, sustainable development, and blue economy, how we can link to help those small-scale farmers to link with the global market, but also how we can help them to increase their productivity in terms of quantity, to increase their productivity in terms of quality. So having this network of GSFN is something which will really impact and transform socioeconomic life of African countries, and especially women in rural community and youth who are just graduated. Yeah.
You know, thank you so much for sharing. I would say that it is a very ambitious project, and I do like ambitious projects, but obviously there are always risks associated with ambitious projects. And but that doesn't mean that we cannot do them, because everything great that has ever been done in the world was always first seen as either over ambitious or not possible. But it takes strong men and women and strong communities and like-minded people who have willpower to execute, you know, difficult projects and projects that are meaningful. I think you mentioned the Congo Basin there, right? And that seems like a good mission, right? And since it connects with 6 countries, that seems even like a better mission. You know, Dr. Jacob Parnell, in his speech earlier, he's a very passionate man, and he cares a lot, you can tell, simply just by hearing his voice and hearing his expressions about the need for us to focus on soil biodiversity. And in the end of that recorded session, you know, he was asked a question as it, you know, what are the challenges, you know, and he mentioned something about measuring soil biodiversity. Now imagine if you can measure the soil biodiversity or the biodiversity of the Congo Basin, right? So there are many ways that you can valorize your project. But let me ask you something maybe perhaps more pertinent. What are the barriers to your project? What is stopping you?
I've lost your last word. Can you, the question?
Sorry, the question was, you know, obviously, you know, that there is a position of taking an idea from vision to execution, right? And along the way, obviously, part of the process of execution means, you know, strategy, means designing your revenue design, means designing basically your architecture, your business design. And along the way, obviously, it means collaboration. So maybe a better way to rephrase the question is, what are the challenges that you're facing in your project?
Right now, the challenge that we have been focusing on is the challenge of experts, people. Like this network with GSFN is something that we really needed to. We have ideas, but we would like to have people such as you guys that have met in GSFN who can help us to structuralize this vision, to bring it on the table, and to put it as a practice. We have got good network. We have access to whatever institution, but what we need is people with good skill, such as that you have. And that's why I was like, I think I wanted to invite you here over Congo, so that we can sit together and see which kind of strategy can we put in place to make our vision practice. The big challenge that we've been facing on is how to make this vision practicable. Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty, and thank you for your kind words as well. We are obliged to help, right? I've started this, so the idea here was to basically bring people together who have like-minded visions and like-minded concepts. So count me in, right? Dr. Renuka, count her in. My team, everybody's involved in the project, and we have all of these people here, Mr. Khalid, Dr. Vishnu, Carlos, right? And we are gathering momentum day by day as well. So yes, I'm pretty confident that we will be able to at least reduce some gaps, point in the right direction, create the right networking. And I'm always available to help with strategy. At the end of the day, I think if we have gifts, if we have skill sets, right? And if we have the ability to help, I think these are things that as humans, it's important that we look at first, what is the benefit that we can give to others, right? So I personally, will be very happy to share whatever skills I have, whatever knowledge I have, in the assistance of this project. Well, you used a very nice word. You said the Congo Basin. Somehow that just appeals to me even greater right now. So, biodiversity, forests is something which somehow I'm very connected to and I feel very passionate about. So count us in. We will certainly be with you and we will develop this further with you for sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Bernard. Okay, anybody else do we have? So since I have you here, I thought I'd just share with you a little bit, all of you, something very interesting. And naturally, as I've been saying, that we intend to basically valorize waste and go into black soldier fly farming. Now, the conditions for black soldier fly farming differ from country to country. And while Europe and the global north has invested a lot of money trying to automate their systems and to create automation that fits the purpose of their countries, the environment there, their conditions there make black soldier fly farming relatively expensive. And at the same time, that price increase generates that same standard whereby their products are actually more expensive, right, than traditional farm inputs in many cases. But for systems such as this to work, we need basically such products to be more cost effective so that they can be more ubiquitous to farmers and to communities in the global south, right? And predominantly, as a biospecies, the black soldier fly needs more temperate climates. So in reality, right, places like Karachi, where University of Sindh is, or in Calcutta, where Dr. Vishnu is, or even where you are, Dr. Bernard, or even where you are, Mr. Khalid, right? These are countries that basically can take on such strategies and actually develop economies in their own country as well. So just give me a minute while I set it up, and I will be sharing my screen for a very short video on black soldier fly farming. So naturally, Better Insect Solutions, Better Good, they are our technology systems partner. So we will be working with them because we are developing a very large, my co-founders all have expertise in black soldier fly farming, scientific expertise and actually professional and setting up expertise as well. But the ambitions that I have, are larger as well. So, it was important for us to find global partners that can help us scale. Naturally, at the same time, countries in the global south can't afford the systems that are in the global north. But in many ways, it's about deconstructing the process and, looking at what is the best fit for your own individual country, how you can create, proteins, alternative proteins, especially for agricultural economies, right? That can basically create new feed sources for cattle, for livestock, for poultry. And interestingly, you can now it's a new sustainable source to also set up shrimp farming. So the ubiquitousness and the diversive nature of black soldier fly, right, and the larva basically gives us the global south a lot of opportunities to develop their economies, right? The output, as you saw earlier, right, they are being fed food waste, and the frass, which is what has been branded by Europe, is actually the biofertilizers, which is produced by such black soldier flies larvas, right? So it's highly organic, right? So at the same time, by generating these industries at scale and having strategies for those, countries will be able to produce their own source of biofertilizers. Countries will be able to supplement, as we all know, poultry generally, the industrialization of poultry has led to feed formulas being 100% plant-based. Now, 100% plant-based is not the natural diet of poultry at all. All of us are from global south countries. We know that in farms, right, poultry eats earthworms as well, digs into the soil, they eat insects too. So many studies around the world have shown that the vitality of poultry, right, is increased tremendously. And at the same time, there's a natural weight gain as well. Now, weight is a commercial term here. So when you have a sustainable feed source, that now you can perhaps switch your poultry design from 100% plant-based to perhaps 70% plant-based and 30% insect-based, right? You would actually be able to redirect that 30% plant protein back into the human food chain. And at the same time, you'll be creating a more sustainable source of feed as well for this. And eventually you will have poultry with better gut health that needs less vaccinations. So essentially, it's about looking at our food systems again. And that's where I feel that, perhaps Dr. Bishnu, you may have some insights, or Bernard, do you feel such technologies and such systems, at least the application of this should be looked at into your nation, at your part of the world?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Bishnu, tell us, what do you feel?
It's a very upgraded technology. You have shown this in the video. So gradually it is going in our country, agriculture scientists and others related institute. They are developing the things in the research level now. Many things in the research level or startup level, but gradually it is developing in our country. And it is a scalable technology, I think. So a global community can rise up with this technology, and hope in future it will be help us to reach our goal in the sustainable development goal, and help us to I mean self-dependent in the food systems. It's a very relevant things you have shown in the screen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think, the truth is, I do know that India is ahead of this. In fact, you have a very good startup out of India that is actually doing this as well, and they've got very similar ideas that we have as well. And being a Singaporean in Pakistan, I've always noticed that Pakistan is behind in several things. So the idea here is, I believe that India is absolutely on the right path, right? They are looking at sustainable proteins. And, so I feel that naturally all other SAARC countries should also look into this, you know, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, and all of us, and suddenly our friends in the global south as well. Yes, Samuel.
Thank you, sir. The soldier fly farming, that's the insect farming, is something we are familiar with in Nigeria. I'm a poultry farmer with practical experience in it. I'm still in it. We've tried it, but it's not cost effective. You already made mention of that, depending on the region. So I want to ask, when you're trying to, you're investing, you're venturing into, will it be cost effective in Nigeria as well? Then you made mention of something, the introduction of 30% back into formulation for livestock will reduce the disease level of the livestock. Well, from experience, I have a concluded project on that, not on paper yet, not on paper, you know, something practical. I do on my farm, we do more of organic. I won't call it 100% organic yet because we don't have the total control of the feed formulation. We still have to source for some other things that we don't actually know the source, if it is laboratorically grown or something of such. So I won't say 100% because I don't have total control on the formulation of those feed. We still have to source for some of the inputs. But as regards the medication, we've been able to do it 100% organically. If you get to my farm, we have premium products. But I'll be sharing it in one of my presentations on Global Summit. We do 100% organic medication, starting from the vaccines to the drugs used. So we do more of preventive than curative. And because of that, we have very low mortality rates. So, and the meats, the white meats are produced more juicy, tougher. The production period is also shortened. Regularly in Nigeria, you have 5 weeks for production, but we've been able to, myself and my partner, we've been able to successfully do it under 28 days of average weight of 1.85, 1.9 live weight. So we've been able to, we don't have attacks. Sometimes we don't have, except if the routine is not critically and judiciously followed. So I want to say, based on my research, although feed contributes to part of what causes sicknesses, but how you manage the management also matters a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your insights. I agree with you. At the end of the day, firstly, let's talk about cost effectiveness. If we were to replicate the exact technology and the exact systems that are being worked and developed in the global north, it is absolutely not cost effective for us. You're absolutely right. However, if we were to create our own local systems by actually combining the best version of those, you must understand, at the end of the day, hygiene and development is a very big part of insect farming. So we have a strategy whereby we will be using a combination, you know, of semi-autonomous and manual labor. And for us, we're only investing basically in developing the processing unit, right? Because our plans are slightly different, right? We basically want to, first, we will be setting up our bioagri depot where we are streaming 265 tons of waste. Now we want to build it on a 7-stack vertical farm, a larvarium. And naturally, the process is significant. For example, I was advised that, you know, just to manage the larvarium vision that I have, I would need 300 people working in that larvarium. Now, I was delighted because I think it's a good idea that we can create jobs for 300 people in just this sector. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people have different mindsets about their business strategy and what their business design is. So I've spent about 2.5 years studying the different black soldier fly markets around the world. And you must understand, you know, that all of this impetus really started on the 7th of September, 2021, when the EU legislated for the first time that, after good work, insect farms and insect companies such as Protix and Better Insect Solutions and many of these companies have been working very hard to basically get their product legislated. So on the 7th of September, the EU has legislated it. However, EU's legislation when it comes to food waste, right, is very different from legislation in Asia, right? There, they don't allow post-consumer food waste to be fed to insects. So there's a tendency for a lot of the insect farms to basically set up their operations closer towards food production units. In Vietnam, right, Vietnam has one of the largest commercial weight categories of the black soldier fly, right? Their weight category in terms of the commercial weight of black soldier fly, which is very important, since you are already involved in this, that, the objective here is to create good commercial grade larvae. And it all depends, it all comes down to the design of your substrate, the design of the feed that you give. In many parts of this world, the approach is to take any form of mixed food waste and give it to the insects. Our approach will be slightly different, right? Because Pakistan is a halal country, which means halal food systems, which means even the food waste is halal, right? So we have the opportunity to generate black soldier fly larvae fed on halal food waste. And this gives us a lot of opportunities for marketability and for culture suitability in these parts of the world, and also to market to countries in the GCC. So it's about the design, Samuel, is the best answer that I can give you. And at the same time, I think I'll be very happy to also carry on these conversations with you because we already have some interests. I'm very liberal about my ideas. I've shared my ideas. I've shared my internal workings with Bernard as well. I've shared it with our counterparts in Ghana as well. And I believe that the system that we have is replicable in any part of the global south that has a high mass balance. You must know that in order for any countries to be able to create black soldier fly economies of scale, we need to be able to understand how do we valorize and stream the high mass waste balance that we have. Because we are larger countries, our mass waste balance is higher, right? Naturally, we have the obligation to reduce our mass waste as well. But at the same time, there will always going to be some waste. So how do we be strategic about waste? So the answer, in my opinion, is really looking at plug and play. We don't have to take systems as it is. We have the opportunity here to design sustainable systems based on our own national environments. Each country is unique, right? They've got different infrastructures, but essentially, the connection points are the same. So I'll be happy to share more with you, and we'll discuss more about this in the upcoming salons as well. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered your question.
Sure,
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So does anybody else? Leonan Valente from Brazil. You've been here since the beginning of the salon. Would you like to add some words? Tell us a bit about yourself. All right. Okay. So Leonon is not with us. Mr. Bilal, would you like to have any remarks?
No, actually, you described the proteins and MetaGood really perfectly, and the way you have answered Mr. Samuel's question, I think it makes clear because the cost-effective thing is pretty common for countries like Pakistan and Nigeria, all the countries in global south, because as you pointed out at the start of this thing that we startup never had millions to burn, not in Pakistan, not in global south, where in EU and in Western world there are subsidies, there are government support, and the regulation supported and the industry also supported. So here we have to, like you said, we have to tweak the systems to our own existing ecosystem so they can do better. I think it will be challenging to convince humans are certain to like have proteins from waste, but I think they can be utilized for animal feed. They can do it because since I cover agriculture sector also as a business journalist, so I know how expensive and how difficult it is getting for people running livestock farm and poultry farms to get the feed and in a cost effective way. So even if we can lower the cost by even a small margin, I mean, I think farmers will switch, the poultry farmers will switch, and I think that will be the case across the global south. But I think secondly, there also be great markets in the Western world, because while there are subsidies and there are regulations that support the development of these technologies there, I think they can't like fill their own need by just relying on themselves. They'll be relying on global south, and that's where the integration will happen between the global north and global south. That will be from
Thank you for your input on the matter. I will say this, that let's talk about the term waste. In summation, it is highly possible that by labeling something as waste, we have lost the consciousness that it's actually useful to us. So none of this process, thank you, none of this process that we speak about involves a chain where human beings have to eat their own waste. No, what we are really doing here is basically re-identifying this waste as finite resources of the planet. And if we switch to this system change of thinking them as finite resources, and how do we valorize this waste, right, into something which is sustainable, right? Like, for example, Johnson yesterday is valorizing his waste into creating pellets, right? But at the same time, there are many opportunities, right, to look at each individual bio waste material as it is as itself as an opportunity for us to understand what is the opportunity cost. What is it that we can do with this waste? What is it that we can do to create more sustainability and more profitability, and also create a greener environment? So the dangers associated, there's actually no danger, because you see, the humans never connect this process. So what we are really doing here at the end of the day is taking the waste, right, feeding it to the insect. And before we feed it to the insect, by the way, at Metagood, we have a system process, right? Our chief scientist, Zulkifli, has developed a process where he wants to ferment this waste, treat the waste. And incidentally, we will not be feeding mixed food waste to our insects at all. That is a no-go from our side, because at Metagood, our goal is to create a world-grade standard larva, which is comparable with Vietnam. My targets are to create, a global state larva, grade larva for Pakistan that is on standard with Vietnam. Now in Vietnam, they use, for example, in the substrate, they use pig's manure in the substrate, which is actually a very powerful item to use. I'm pretty sure in parts of Nigeria as well, they use pig's manure in the substrate as well. Now, naturally, in Pakistan, we have different systems. So it's about looking at the waste that we have, which is available, and engineering. I use the word engineering the right diet, right, for our black soldier fly, in order for us to be able to design a good larva. And that larva becomes a protein source that is fed to the animals that we consume. For example, fed to supplement 15% of the diet for cattle, supplement 20 to 30% of the diet for poultry, right? And basically even pet food as well, or shrimp. Now, at the end of the day, these proteins are actually part of the natural diet of these animals anyway. We're not changing anything. What we're doing is correcting the system. The current system is a broken system because, frankly, when we industrialized poultry farming, nobody knew how to basically commercialize insects as well. Because naturally, to generate poultry, you need to be able to generate a sustainable feed source for them, which is why you have now, in many parts of the world, a lot of the food that is produced actually goes to feeding the livestock. And then that livestock is priced out of the reach of many people in the global south. The global north has started a paradigm for everybody to switch to plant-based. But they don't know that in the global south, we are the first people to actually start plant-based foods anyway. You know, our cultures have a lot of vegetables and plant-based proteins in them, right? So we are indigenous to plant foods anyway. So the idea here is that we need to look at our systems and ask ourselves, are these systems that have been introduced in this part of the world sustainable for us, right? And so I would say that what is definitely needed is a culture shift, and certainly the ability for us to actually bridge the gap to let people know that actually what they are eating or what they can eat as food is much better than the current situation that most of us have. Dr. Tanveer said in the beginning of this salon that, you know, there's a protein gap. So there's a protein gap and a protein health gap as well, because it is highly obvious that the food that we are eating, that we are consuming, is not entirely nutritious, right? And there are lots of dangers associated with it as well. And we are ingesting the same toxins that end up in this food within our systems as well. So we need a good system rethink, because essentially the opportunity, climate change is a wake-up call, and inherently it tells us that we need to move to sustainability. And as we investigate sustainability, as we investigate and we identify the reasons that led to a planet being unsustainable, we are also able to identify that along the way, a lot of systems that have been created perhaps for the sake of profit, right? Putting profit over the planet, it has backfired, right? And now we are now living in the age of the outcome of decisions that we have made over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, which many scientists, which many people along the way have been, you know, looking to be voices and to lead us towards a more sustainable path. We've had 28 COPs, right? And there'll be a 29th next year as well. This is the first summit, right? And naturally, we're a small grassroots organization, and we're looking to build a community in a very different way. So I believe, you know, we will be successful. I can tell from the engagement that we've had and from the curiosity generated over the last few days, right, that people want to have these solutions, right? All of us are very common. Dr. Bishnu has same common problems. Dr. Tanveer has the same problems. Samuel has the same thing. So all of us actually don't know that we are more alike than we think. We're not that different at all. So with that, I thank you so much for joining us today. And certainly we will be updating all of the content on the website as well. And we look forward to all of you engaging with us further over the next few days. And yes, anybody would like to add any remarks before we close? I think Dr. Renuka is busy and she's managing the other rooms. So I think we've accomplished the objectives of today's session. I thank everybody for their participation today. Yes, Dr. Bishnu, any closing words?
Yes, thank you so much for different discussion from the different countries. And it is a very valuable discussion. It is a very valuable input to look forward. And especially you have shown many videos, couple of videos and very informative videos and documents, which is really I really get to appreciate on this, and I'm get inspired on this. So in my university, I am in charge of the innovative startup, etc. This innovative cell. I'm really will start to organize this type of things. Though I am a civil and environmental engineering group, but I have interested to develop this type of things, because there are separate department also there. In merging this department, I will start the things that you have shown in the videos and documents. So thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your valuable words and valuable time. And at the same time, I also grateful to all of dignitaries over here, presenters over here. They also share their valuable opinions. So I'm really, it is my pleasure that I have with all of you, and many thanks to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Khalid, please. Dr. Khalid.
Yes, sorry, Prof. Chorp, thank you. I'm asking if you have a salon for education in the summit.
Sorry,
If
I
you have
lost you.
I'm asking about if you have a salon for education coming soon in the summit.
Yes,
Especially-
Mr. Khalid. We have a saloon for bridging knowledge gaps and of new farmer IQ creation. It's scheduled on 31st. The whole schedule for the whole summit is already on our website. You can visit it, and I'll connect with you, and I'll put your project and your slot in that summit. No problem.
Yes, that's
I-
excellent.
Yes,
Thank you.
actually, Mr. Khalid, what do you call it? I apologize for any communication gaps. You are already involved in that summit. You've also been locked in. I've received your application on the Sustainable Design Council as well. So you are already part of our agenda, sir. And Mr. Bilal will certainly be in touch with you after this to give you more clarity. So we are all excited to hear what you have to say, and in fact, you are already on the website. So Bilal, please share the link with Mr. Khalid. Yeah.
Yes,
I will
sure.
do. I will do.
Please
Thank
continue,
you.
Mr. Khalid. Yeah, okay,
Pardon?
great. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I also did registration for all salon session. It's very important for me. I am interested. Maybe I found something interested to share something. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Everybody is invited to every salon now. There is a universal link, right? We've made it easy for everyone. I do apologize for any technical difficulties that we are having. You know, we are starting off, right? And we've lifted off, and we are managing technical difficulties along the way. We have an extraordinary team from Quefat, Dr. Bilal and his team. You know, they are all volunteering their time as well, and they're being, you know, hoping for us to have a success. And so I'm very grateful to all of them. So hopefully tomorrow is going to be a wonderful day. We're going to have a super salon where we're going to speak about some dynamic things that will focus on the University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, which is the largest agricultural university in Pakistan. It churns out about 30,000 students for agriculture a year. They'll be working with our counterparts in Singapore, Alex Hong, and we are essentially driving up the connection of how do we create the next generation of agronomists who understand soil biodiversity, who understand, right, the need to start the future of agriculture back to how it's supposed to be, and that is engineering-wise soil health design. So it's going to be quite large, and we'll also get to hear from Dr. Renuka about GSFN, the community carbon calculator, and naturally more work, more ideas from Mr. Bernard, who is actually leading and working on the GSFN ADA CCC project in Africa as well. So we're bringing together a lot of ideas and a lot of people. So please do join us every day, right? And thank you so much from Pakistan and from everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See you
See
soon.
you
Thank
tomorrow.
you. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Good evening. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Bilal. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.